German SPGs of World War II, the toughest beasts on the battlefield. Hey bro, what's good? If you're reading this, you're probably as stoked about history as I am, especially when it comes to the insane war machines of World War II. Today, I'm diving deep into the gnarliest German self-propelled guns, SPGs, that gave the Allies and the Soviets some serious headaches. Man, early 20th century, World War I. Soldiers are stuck in muddy trenches, dodging artillery like it's a never-ending nightmare. Then, boom, tanks roll in. These metal monsters flipped warfare on its head. Suddenly, it's not about sitting still. It's about moving fast and hitting hard. But tanks alone weren't enough. Armies needed big guns that could keep up. Old-school horse-drawn cannons? Total snooze fest. They couldn't match the speed of tanks and slowed down the whole show. The Germans figured this out quick and got to work building self-propelled guns, SPGs, that could roll with the tanks and pack a serious punch. After their blitz through Poland in 1939, the Germans realized they needed mobile artillery, STAT. Lucky for them, they nabbed a ton of tanks and factories in Czechoslovakia. Using those captured chassis, they started cranking out SPGs like nobody's business. These machines became a total game changer, but they weren't perfect. They had their flaws, and the Germans kept tweaking them to make them even deadlier. Let's break down the baddest of the bad. Those SPGs that made the Allies and Soviets sweat bullets. Why SPGs were such a big deal. So, why were SPGs such a hot commodity? Tanks are awesome for charging in and smashing defenses, but without big guns backing them up, they're like a quarterback without a line. Artillery was needed to hit from afar, support the infantry, and take out bunkers. But horse-drawn guns? Man, they were slower than a Monday morning. SPGs fixed that. They could move almost as fast as tanks and carry some serious firepower. The Germans were the first to really nail this, especially after seeing how their tanks rolled over Poland. On the economic side, SPGs were a smart move for Germany. After World War I, the Versailles Treaty put a chokehold on their military industry. But the Germans were sneaky. They used captured factories like Skoda and KD in Czechoslovakia to pump out SPGs without starting from scratch. This saved them time and cash, letting them build thousands of these beasts. According to historians, Germany churned out around 20,000 SPGs by 1945, more than their tank production. That's wild when you consider how strapped they were for resources, with Allied bombs raining down on their factories. But here's the catch. SPGs weren't perfect. Their armor was often thinner than tanks, and most didn't have rotating turrets, which made them vulnerable up close. Plus, if the chassis broke down, fixing in the field was a total pain. Still, the Germans kept at it, making their SPGs tougher with every year. Let's dive into the ones that really stood out. SPG-3, the stealthy sniper. First up, the SPG-3. This thing was a straight-up legend. The Germans built 9,250 of them, way more than any other SPG. That alone tells you it was a beast. If I was a GI or a Soviet tanker, I'd be praying not to run into this bad boy. The SPG-3 hit the scene in 1940, built on the chassis of the T3 tank. They took a solid tank, ditched the turret, and slapped on a big gun. The early models had a short-barreled 75mm gun, the SPG-7, 5 cmK-A. No machine gun, which was a bummer, but it still wrecked infantry and light armor. Armor-wise, it had 50mm up front and 30 on the sides. Not amazing, but decent for the early war. With a 300 horsepower engine, this 19-ton machine could hit 38 kilometers per hour on roads. And get this, it was super off-road capable and quiet as a mouse. At just 2 meters 160 millimeters tall, it was a nightmare to spot. The Soviets hated the SPG-3 more than any other German machine. Why? It was sneaky and hard to hit. Its low profile meant it could hide in bushes or behind hills, pop off a shot, and vanish before you could blink. Imagine you're in a Sherman or T-34, scanning the horizon, and this thing just appears, blasts you, and dips out. Total horror show. By December 1942, the Germans upped the ante with the SPG-3 OSF. They beefed up the front armor to 80 millimeters and swapped in a long-barreled 75 millimeter stuck 40L/48 gun. That baby could punch through a T-34's armor from a kilometer away. It carried 54 rounds and got an MG-34 machine gun for close fights. Weight went up to 23 and 9/10 tons, but it was still nimble. Here's a crazy fact. Some of the best German tank aces, like Hans Zandrock with 123 kills and Fritz Lang with 113, racked up their scores on SPG-3s or Tigers. These guys were like the snipers of the tank world, picking off enemies left and right. Economically, the SPG-3 was a home run. It was cheap, about 82,000 Reichsmarks compared to a Panther's 117,000. The T3 chassis was already in production, so they could churn these out fast. No turret meant less cost and simpler assembly. This let Germany flood the battlefield with SPG-3s, which was bad news for the Allies. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Without a turret, the SPG-3 had to turn its whole body to aim, which sucked if the enemy flanked it. Early models also had thin armor that Soviet 76 millimeter guns could crack. Still, the Germans kept tweaking it, making it a tougher nut to crack each year. Jagdpanther, the ultimate tank hunter. Now, let's talk about the Jagdpanther, the king of tank killers. Some historians call it the best anti-tank weapon of World War II, and I'm not arguing. This thing was a beast, plain and simple. The Jagdpanther rolled out in March 1944, built on the Panther tank's chassis. By then, the Panther's kinks were mostly ironed out, so the Jagdpanther was rock solid from start. Its crown jewel? An 88 millimeter PaK 43 gun that could blast through most Allied tanks from 3 to 4 kilometers. The only tank it struggled with was the Soviet IS-2, and even that wasn't safe if the Jagdpanther hit from the side. Armor? 80 millimeters up front and 50 on the sides, sloped at 55 and 30 degrees, so shells just bounced off. A 700 horsepower engine pushed this 45-ton monster to 46 kilometers per hour on roads and 26 off-road. It was nimble for its size, with 57 shells for the gun and 600 rounds for the machine gun. Crew? 5 guys. They only made 420 Jagdpanthers, mostly sent to the Western Front, where they tore through Allied tanks in the Battle of the Bulge. They didn't hit the Eastern Front until January 1945, around Lake Balaton, but by then, Germany was on its last legs. Cost-wise, the Jagdpanther was pricey, about 250,000 Reichsmarks, 3 times a SPG-3. But it was worth it. One well-placed Jagdpanther could turn a battle around. Since it used the Panther's chassis, production didn't need new factories, which saved time. Still, its 45-ton weight made it less mobile on soft ground, and no turret meant it had to pivot to aim, leaving it open to flankers. But when it was in position, good luck surviving that. If you're ever near Kubinka, Russia, check out the Tank Museum there. They've got a Jagdpanther on display, and let me tell you, seeing it in person is like staring down a T-Rex. It's awesome and terrifying. Ferdinand, the over-engineered giant. Next up, the Ferdinand. This thing's a mixed bag. Some love it, some hate it, but nobody ignores it. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche, it's like he tried to build a tank-destroying spaceship and got carried away. The Ferdinand used the chassis of the Tiger, P, not the regular Tiger, T6. Problem was that chassis was complicated as heck and broke down all the time. Plus, the thing weighed 65 tons. That's like 2.5 SPG-3s. 2 engines, each 265 horsepower, couldn't handle it, maxing out at 30 kilometers per hour on roads. Off-road? Forget it. It got stuck in mud like a beached whale, and you'd need 5 tow trucks to yank it out. Oh, and good luck finding a bridge that could hold it. But here's why it was scary. That 88 millimeter PaK 43 gun. same as the Jag Panthers, could shred anything from 3 kilometers. And the armor? 200 millimeters up front. Nothing was getting through that. Sides and rear had 80 millimeters, still tough to crack. When Ferdinand's debuted at Kursk in July 1943, they blew Soviet minds. They were so intimidating that Red Army soldiers started calling every German SPG a Ferdinand. In 1944, they upgraded it with a machine gun and anti-magnetic Cimmerit coating to stop sticky mines, renaming it the Elephant. They only built 91 of these beasts, but each one was a force of nature. Stats show one lost Ferdinand took out 10 enemy tanks on average, the best kill ratio of any heavy armor in the war. The downside? It was a maintenance nightmare and cost a whopping 600,000 Reichsmarks, 3 Panthers worth. Germany could have built more tanks, but they went all in on this superweapon. It was like betting the farm on a flashy sports car that breaks down every week. Still, you gotta respect the sheer audacity. Hetzer, the little guy with a big punch. Last but not least, the Hetzer. This SPG was like the scrappy kid who punches way above his weight. Built by the Czechs, not the Germans, on the PZKW-38T light tank chassis, it started rolling out in 1944 and kept going until the war's end. It was so good they made him until 1951. The Hetzer had a 75mm pack, 39-2 gun, and an MG-34 machine gun. Armor was 60mm up front and 20 to 40 on the sides, sloped so shells just slid off. At 2 meters 160 millimeters tall, it was as sneaky as the SPG-3. Weighing just 16 tons, its 160 horsepower engine hit 42 kilometers per hour. Crew? For guys. They built 2,800 Hetzers, and they were dirt cheap, about 50,000 Reichsmarks each. Simple to make, deadly on the battlefield, they were like the budget-friendly assassins of the SPG world. The Czechs knew their stuff, and the Germans were smart to let them keep building. Why German SPGs were so freaking awesome? So what made these SPGs so tough? First, the Germans were pros at using capture resources. Czech factories and chassis gave them a head start. Second, they kept improving their designs based on battlefield feedback. The SPG-3 went from a basic gun platform to a tank-killing machine. The Jag Panther was engineering perfection. The Ferdinand was a hulking beast, and the Hetzer proved you don't need to be big to be bad. Economically, SPGs were a lifeline for Germany. Tanks like the Tiger were pricey and complex, but SPGs used existing chassis, saving time and money. By 1945, Germany had pumped out 20,000 SPGs despite Allied bombings. Tactically, they used these machines like chess grandmasters, setting ambushes, supporting infantry, and sniping tanks from miles away. The Allies and Soviets learned to counter them, but it cost blood and sweat. Digging into this, I realized something, bro. It's not just about the machines. It's about the people behind them. Aces like Zandrock and Lang turned SPGs into legends because they knew the battlefield inside out. It's like how a great guitarist makes a cheap guitar sing. It's all about skill. World War II teaches us about resilience, too. Germany lost because their resources ran dry and their enemies teamed up. In 2025, with economic shakes and new tech changing the game, we gotta learn from the past. Be ready for surprises, you know? If you're curious, check out books on the Battle of Kursk or the Bulge. Or hop online. Reddit and War Thunder forums are buzzing with tank nerds debating Jag Panthers versus Ferdinands. It's a blast to dive into. Let's hear from you. Yo, if this got you hyped, smash that subscribe button on my channel. I'm always dropping history vids like this, tanks, planes, you name it. And toss a comment below. What's your take on these German SPGs? Got a favorite World War II machine? Want to hear about Shermans or T-34s next? Let me know, and let's geek out together. Smiling face with sunglasses.